Hi, good morning everyone. I'm Carolina from Making Life, and today I'm here to interview Antonio Conto, founder of ChemSafe. Please, if you want to introduce yourself and your background and your important role in AFI.
Okay, thank you so much, Carolina, for this nice invitation and nice presentation. As said, I'm Antonio Conto, the founder of ChemSafe, but in this occasion, in the role of the coordinator of the biocides group within AFI. So I'm in this role since 10 years. So we try to develop the group, introducing new members in this kind of working group, and we were quite successful in this, and the group is now active, and we are organizing some seminar every year, or alone with the University of Milano or in the AFI Symposium in June. And so the activity is still a very good activity, and our task is to get people to discuss about this important and complex regulation about biocidal products and biocidal substances.
I understand that we are transition from a national legislation to an European regulation. What are the main differences between these two regulations, and where are we now in this part of the program?
So in few words, it's very difficult to summarize which are the differences. Let me say that the previous directive was a general one, introducing the directive 98/8, no? So many years ago. Was a general one introducing the concept of biocidal products, how we need to understand their safety, etc., etc., etc. National procedure were very simple, not comparable with the new regulation. The new regulation 528/2012, it's quite complex. So when you approach the new regulation, you need to prepare a very important safety dossier, introducing risk assessment for human health, environmental impact, and also the claims of efficacy. So it's a technical and scientific activity that is very complex if you compare with national authorization procedure or even the old directives. So the European legislator complicated a lot this kind of approach.
Do we have like a deadline before that we have to adjust to the new regulation?
As you said, we are always in a transitional period because the active substance enter in the evaluation process, and when the active substance is a given active substance is approved, all the biocidal product containing that active substance has a deadline in order to produce and to submit the dossier. So normally the deadline could be, let me say, 18 months or 24 months from the active approval. Okay. The active approval. Okay. So it depends on the actives. Okay. We don't have a single rule. Okay. We don't have a single rule. We have for this reason, for the same reason, we have still in the transitional period because active substances are ongoing in the evaluation.
Okay.
So we are not sure when this this mechanism, this procedure will finish. Okay, because we need that European authority to finish the active substance evaluation.
Okay, I guess this transition is not easy at all. So what are the most debated aspects and questions of the new regulation?
Again, there are so many.
You can choose.
Yes, I need to choose, but I can say one word: workability. So the workability of this regulation is becoming a problem for many reasons. One reason is this that we have already discussed. So the transitional periods that are given by active substances evaluation. So companies do not have a single rule, but they need to understand their product where their product fall in this mechanism. I mentioned workability saying because this regulation is an harmonized European regulation, but the evaluation is still in the hand of national authorities, except the case of the unional okay, authorization process, but it's not so frequent.
Okay.
So we have a regulation that is European, but the evaluators are still
National.
set in the national authorities. So this does not help for the harmonization of the process, no? Especially when you have the so-called mutual recognition procedure. So a company make its product authorized in Italy, for example, then ask for the mutual recognition in other countries, expecting that this process could be very fast. Normally it's not so fast, even if it's faster than the first authorization, but because the national authorization have some power to add some question, to say we are not in agreement with the first authorization. So this process is not so smooth. Okay, so so the workability of the regulation, in my opinion, is one of the problems. As for other regulation in Europe, the REACH regulation, pesticides, etc., etc. So we have the same problem in different areas.
Yes.
And companies are in difficulties, no? Because in many cases, especially from Italy, the companies are very small. They didn't have, since the beginning, a regulatory background to understand the meaning of this new regulation. So we fight a lot in trying to teach them how to follow. And it was not easy.
Yes, yes. You need to have a person that are capable to understand before do the transition in the company.
Yeah, in many cases we face since 15 years, more or less. Such medium-sized companies do not have an internal regulatory office. So it's the technical director or the owner that deals with this activity, or with the consultants, or in AFI environment. So it was the technical people or the owners have other tasks and other targets, not the regulatory targets.
Yes.
So it was difficult to make them understanding this kind of difficult approach, and also the financial aspects, the expenses that they needed to support, and they need still to support.
Yes.
To get the authorization. So not easy.
We talked about the difficulties of this transition, but in order to improve human, animal, and of course environmental health, how is the new regulation better than the previous one?
The new regulation on biocidal substances and products have the same, let me say, background of all the regulation in Europe, REACH, pesticides, and also cosmetics, etc., etc., risk assessment, environmental risk assessment for drugs. So they introduced a very important, let me say, pillar of this scientific evaluation, the risk assessment.
Okay.
The risk assessment for human health. So in case of biocidal product means the operator or the consumer, or the bystander, that can be exposed to this. So human health, and if needed, also the environmental risk assessment. So these are principles that were not included in the national procedure, for example, at least in Italy, sure. So in order to make a risk assessment, you need to follow guidances, you need to follow scientific approaches, you need to, at the end, to prepare the PAR, the Products Assessment Report, no? And this is all done in order to know better the aspect of human protection and environmental protection. So, as I was saying at the beginning, the dossier for following the new regulation, it's no longer new, the regulation is very complicated, and you need scientists to do this. But of course, it's aimed to protect more and better health and environment.
Yes, also because in the latest year, environmental protection and sustainability is more a hot topic. So maybe in the previous regulation, it was less important, the environment.
Yes. I can agree with this. Also because when the first directive came out in 98, in the 90s we have a good growth of the regulation for chemical substances. But in those years, we started with some risk assessment procedure. Okay. Now we have Green Deal policy, we have chemical sustainability, we have the problem of environment, microplastic, and you know, I can mention a lot. And giant disruptors, PFAS, no, all these problems related to the REACH regulation. So the sensitivity, also the public opinion about these arguments, these topics is very huge, and European regulators push on this. The matter is that we need to find a balance between the market, the commercial aspects, the cost of this activity, the cost of the authorization at the end, and the protection. So it's not easy. This is one of the most debated arguments. Also at political level, not only at the, let me say, company level or association level like us. So it's a huge challenge.
My last question is more curiosity. Are there any biocides or any chemical products that were common use some years before and now with the new legislation are totally abolished?
There are some chemicals that under the REACH regulation, when they went to authorization and restriction process are or banned or restricted. I don't know now if there are some of these that can also be covered by the biocidal regulation. Also because we work also in AFI mainly on products, not on active substances. What I can say on product is this. When we apply the new criteria and regulation by the new guidances regarding risk assessment and, for example, efficacy, some products were abandoned because they were no longer efficacious.
Okay.
Because the guidance for efficacy trials are more demanding than in the past.
Okay.
Let me say, in the past, in the 90s, we didn't have any guidance for efficacy. Okay, so the product claims were given by companies, not subjected to an authorization by authorities. Okay, so we have now in this situation some companies that decide to abandon for this reason because the product is no longer or not absolutely good, no, for the claim efficacy. In some other cases, we had some, very few, but some cases in which the product were not authorized by the national authorities because they were not correctly supported in terms of, again, risk assessment, for example, or classification. Okay. Third case, some companies decided to, let me say, select the product. For example, before the regulation, they had, I don't know, 30 products. Okay, they know that they were not able to support these 30 products for many reasons, not only financial or cost, etc., but also in terms of efficacy, for example, or classification of some components. So they decided to select this product and did not go for authorization on all the products in the pipeline at the beginning. Okay. So I expect to have at the end a sort of decrease of availability of products on the market.
Okay.
This is another huge debate because how we can fight some microorganism or some organism in order to, if we don't have the product. This is one of the questions that was present since the beginning of the process, but now we are facing the problem. Okay? So this is more or less what we are doing every day.
It's more about the efficacy than the dangerous things that you don't have products that are considered worldwide dangerous, but it's more about the efficacy and more technical and developed.
Let me say, it's a 50-50.
Okay.
50-50. And the other, I can also say that on the authority side, they are very demanding. They are very severe in all the authorities, not Austrian, German, what do you want, Italian, etc. They are very demanding because they feel the responsibility to protect human health and environment. Okay, And this sometimes doesn't match with the feeling of the companies. So there are some discussion in between. And of course, AFI, as an association or consultancy company like us, has also this role in order to make an intermediation, because between these two, I can say, feeling, the desire, okay. So, and I can say we are succeeding on that. What is important in the working group in AFI is to discuss. Absolutely, to discuss. This session that we have in the symposium is aimed to absolutely to discuss about the still present transitional period, okay? Also having comments from the authorities, because we invited the Ministry of Health and the Istituto Superiore di Sanità and one lab and one consultancy company in order to have sort of brainstorming
yes.
about these problems. Okay.
Thank you very much, Antonio, for your interview. You were very clear. Okay, and I hope to see you at AFI Symposium.
Okay, thank you very much, Carolina, and to all the listeners.
Thank you.